Hello, and welcome back to my small part of the universe. My name is Hailstone. Today, we will be leaving the protective icy shell of Europa for only a tiny bit. We'll be traveling a few light years away to a nearby star system to inspect a very interesting alien species, the Mizzurani. Now please, sit back, relax, and let us begin. Friend, foe, or food? All are friends of the Mizzurani. These plant or squid-like beings are among the last travelers should encounter, as while at first the Mizzurani are extremely welcoming, almost disgustingly so. No suspicion, no questions, they often try to make friends with travelers, showering them with gifts and often following them almost to ensure their new friends' safe passage. Though this is much more sinister than it would initially seem. Biology of the Mizzurani. The Mizzurani are bizarre to say the least. The species seems to have multiple radically different life stages that seemingly bear almost no relation to each other. The Mizzurani that speaks directly to travelers seems to be a form specialized solely for the task of garnering favor from passing travelers, one that puts on a kind face and voice, often giving gifts that are infested with Mizzurani worms. Mizzurani tentacles seem to make up the majority of biomass travelers see on the hulls of infested ships. The purpose of this form seems to be the manipulation of foreign technology, flooding every corner of available space within a ship until the local Mizzurani infection has taken full hold over it, often leaving the infested ship barely visible under the tight, writhing masses of tentacles. Despite being a foreign infestation of the ship, the Mizzurani have taken great care not to damage vital systems for their own usage, as once the Mizzurani have full control, they display great skill and competence in both the weaponry of a ship and their ability to pilot. This is mostly due to the mental faculties of the Mizzurani, that being of a universal hive mind allowing individual colonies to draw upon vast experiences and tactical knowledge. Mizzurani also take on the form of worms during early infestations, using this small form to hide on packages that either transit between star systems in waiting for a new home, or when given to an unwitting traveler to add either another ship to the Mizzurani's fold, or to wait for a more pertinent time to strike. The last and most potent form a Mizzurani takes is that of a spore, one that is hardy enough to survive in space, and one terrifying enough to transform entire worlds. You see, when a Mizzurani occasionally follows a new friend, all they're really doing is waiting for a new world to infest. As when a Mizzurani comes across an inhabited world, they will proceed to create a impact event, accidentally slamming their currently inhabited ship into the occupied world, spreading spores into the air currents of the planet, and either causing that world's inhabitants to quickly evacuate lest they become food for the Mizzurani. It can take anywhere from a few hours to a few days for the Mizzurani to totally infest a planet. Their ability to multiply rapidly is a result of the food range of the Mizzurani, as both friends and foe are food. This may indicate that the Mizzurani are capable of metabolizing a wide variety of different biological makeups and materials, which in turn allows them to rapidly reproduce and overrun worlds in a very short time frame. That would take other species decades, if not centuries, to alter to their needs. Needless to say, the Mizzurani don't get along well with others. At least from their own perspective they do, but many other species don't share their same viewpoint. Some, like the Elitza and the Miorkal, have tried to turn them into servants and fuel for their generators, though the Mizzurani either blatantly ignore their attempts, or the Logos interfere by flushing out the local infestations of Mizzurani. Other species tend to give them a wide of berth as possible, or consider them vile and heinous creatures. The self-declared space police, the Logos, are at a glance the most ardent against the Mizzurani, literally turning entire planets into the equivalent of a sun, via either warhead bombardment or orbital lasers, truly cleansing the planet by bathing it in fire. There is one species that is curious about the Mizzurani, but is wary due to the species' nature, which this viewpoint is shared by the vying consensus. To be curious, to be one, yet many, to be like Yggdrasil, but to corrupt, to only find best worlds, to speak, but not to communicate with words, to be physically connected, not just to others. Whole infested worlds, many sectors away. To command? Perhaps. To not know. The Vine Consensus acknowledges that the Mizzurani are like them to a certain degree, but instead of encouraging and growing life, all the Mizzurani do is take and destroy. The Mizzurani talk, but each word is hollow, only uttered to serve an agenda, and each Mizzurani is simply a mask of a much more erroneous being that spans across light years, only to be commanded and served to expand the Mizzurani. Mizzurani diplomacy with other species is merely a means to an end in its truest sense. Nothing they speak is true, and it is only used to subvert and get travelers to lower their guard in hopes that the Mizzurani will be led somewhere, such as a new fertile world, to spread to and consume. Perhaps the most polarizing species interaction is between that of the Logos and the Mizzurani. The Logos on the surface appear to be the biggest opponent to Mizzurani expansion. Any cargo and crew members the Logos come across are subject to an arbitrary scan, and if any infested crew or materials are found, the contraband will be confiscated and the crew members will be cured, usually by laser or other equipment, leaving behind massive scar tissue in its wake. Needless to say, the Logos are very violent in their dealings with the Mizzurani. But while one may think this is nothing more than a galactic crusader trying to rid the galaxy of a deadly scourge, there is much more to both the Logos and Mizzurani than they would want you to know. Birthed from destruction. Despite their bright and sophisticated appearance, there is a far darker side to the Logos. For, as opposed to the Mizzurani as they are, the Logos need them very badly. For you see, the Mizzurani are just not some alien virus or pathogen that became sentient and started viciously spreading around, that in response the Logos decided it was their duty to stop them. But the fact is, the Mizzurani are a larval form of the Logos, so to say. As I understand it, once a Mizzurani infestation reaches a certain critical mass, a Logos is born from the collective consciousness of the Mizzurani. But if the Mizzurani are the larval form of the Logos, why do they zealously seek to exterminate their origin? It is quite possible that the Logos are ashamed and disgusted by where they came from, but also understand the need for keeping the Mizzurani around for the sake of their own existence. So, for the sake of galactic society, the Logos put on a veil of galactic law enforcement, not just to maintain political power with other species, but to attempt to control the spread of Mizzurani. With this, the Logos will arrive to eliminate the Mizzurani, but not early enough to prevent the birth of a new Logos, and in the process still maintain their stance as the righteous police of the stars by ridding the galaxy of an infested planet. Thank you for watching another one of my videos. I hope you can tolerate just a tiny change of content for this week. Next week, we will be back in Barotrauma with the Charybdis. I just felt it was time to start slightly branching out towards other franchises, as honestly, that's eventually what I intend to do. For a lot of the time, it will still be Barotrauma, but eventually, and occasionally, we will be dipping into other subjects. I hope you'll stay with me on this long journey, and I thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all so much for this chance.